Hey everyone, Mr. Say here. This is a guide for round 3 of the Manufacturer Series exhibition season. Let's get this started. Your first braking point is where the shadow goes over the whole track. So you'll brake just before you start to enter that shadow, brake hard for a moment, quickly ease off of the brakes, bring yourself to the inside of the turn. Once your car is starting to point towards the Dunlop tire, you can then start to accelerate. When you hit the apex of this mini right turn, that is when you start to brake. You'll be braking hard for a short while. Bring yourself all the way to the inside of the turn, just trying not to touch the curbs as you accelerate your way out. You can start to accelerate as you start to point towards the Gran Turismo billboard. Now brake before the barriers on the left change color. Quick burst of braking, get the car to quickly rotate and try to take this left turn at full throttle. Now when the little green strip on the left starts, you can then start to brake. You want to bring yourself all the way to the inside of the turn once again. Wait until the turn is nearly over before you start to fully accelerate. Stay on the left side of the track. Look for the pit sign that is on the right as you want to brake well before you reach it. Brake hard for a very short moment. Slowly ease off of the brakes. Slowly bring yourself to the inside of the turn. Wait until the curb on the right ends and then fully accelerate. For this qualifying session, you'll have 10 minutes to try to get a good qualifying time, and this one's going to be a little interesting as slipstream isn't going to help out as much as usual. So the thing is that you're going through twists and turns most of the time, and you're not going too fast to where the slipstream will be helping you out that much. I would still suggest us trying to get behind someone so you can get a little bit of it to try to reduce your time just by a little bit. But this will also give you time to try to do a couple banker laps. This is where you basically just do a couple of laps by yourself, just trying to get a couple of lap times in case your other laps, especially those under slipstream, don't end up going the way you want it to. Your main goal is to try to get as perfect of a lap as you can, because even the tiniest little errors here will cost you a bit of time, and with the track being so short, the time differences are going to be small, so just a little error can make a difference between you starting in, say, 3rd place and starting in 8th place or even worse. When it comes to your qualifying stints, you want to do at most 2 qualifying laps. So once you're done with 1 or 2 qualifying laps, you can do the jump out and jump back in method. So this is where you press options, exit, and then for the lobbies it'll be enter course, but in the actual race day itself it'll be qualifying that you press. So then you'll end up spawning back at the pit box. Saves you from doing an in lap, especially with the pit duration being a bit long here. So you don't have to do that. All you have to do is just do an out lap, and then you'll go ahead and do your qualifying laps once again. So you're basically going to be repeating that for quite a while here, since we are on a short track. You're going to be repeating that until you run out of time. Alright, Group 3 at Sukuba. Interesting combination. But anyways, fuel is interestingly not an issue at all for this race. However, there are a couple of things that we will need to keep in mind for this race. Your qualifying is going to be extra important here because this track is going to be difficult for performing any overtakes. So by starting at a good position, that means that you will have less battles to deal with. If you end up in a lower position, so say in the mid pack or towards the back, you will have to end up having to do more battles, which means that you'll slow down your own pace and the pace of those around you, which means that it'll be even harder to catch up to those in the front of the pack. So if you want to try to get past someone, you pretty much have to pressure the heck out of them by being really close behind them, so they can feel a bit more nervous. They start to think about you more instead of the turn ahead. You force a mistake on them, and hopefully they'll be able to make a mistake just big enough for you to be able to slide on by without causing much of a fuss. You want to make sure that you don't make contact with anyone so you don't risk giving yourself or the other car a penalty, because the penalty system is extra strict, and with this track being so small and narrow, collisions are going to be a bit more likely to happen. But yeah, in other words, just try not to battle too much to the point where you're losing your own pace. Try to overtake as cleanly as possible so you don't give yourself or the other car a penalty. So when it comes to the tire strategies, the pit strategies, I tested the 3 and the 2 stop in that order. By testing the 2 stop later, we'll be able to compare with the 3 stop, and if the 2 stop is faster than the 3 stop, then that means that we'll have to test the 1 stop as well to see if that strategy is faster. So with the 3 stop, it's a little flexible, so you can adjust it to suit your needs. If you're able to take care of your tires, especially your racing soft tires, then you can make your racing soft tires last up to 13 laps. If you're a little rough at them, then do 12 laps with the racing soft tires. So for this clip and in the custom race, I did 2 12-lap stints on the racing soft tires, another 12-lap stint on the racing medium tires, which left only 1 lap on the racing hard tires. This strategy provides the overall best pace as you're spending more time on the softer tires. This will also come in handy for cars like the Dodge Viper, since this car doesn't really know how to turn that well. So if you're in a car that doesn't like to do this wonderful thing called turn, then you want to try to go for the 3-stop strategy, so you'll spend more time on the softer tire compounds and your car can actually turn, especially when you go through these hairpins. Do be aware that when you're on your 9th to 10th laps on your racing soft tires, the tire wear effect will start to kick in. In the case of the Dodge Viper, the car becomes even more understeery. In the case of cars like the Lamborghini Huracan or the Honda NSX, they'll become more oversteery. So whichever car you're in, you want to be a bit more careful about how you're entering and exiting these turns so you don't end up making a mistake that could potentially send you spinning around or understeering into a wall. And I know I mentioned earlier that the 3-stop is the best when it comes to pace, but I do want to mention that you want to make sure that you don't end up in too many battles, as that will slow you down and that can cause the 2-stoppers to potentially catch up to you, especially because you have to do 1 extra pit stop. So keep that in mind if you're doing the 3-stop. The other thing that I do want to mention that I somehow keep on forgetting to mention is that racing medium and hard tires are required for this race. So make sure you put them on for at least 1 lap so you don't end up getting a 1-minute penalty after the race ends. We will take a quick moment to take a look at the pit stop. So the pit stop is just before the final right turn, and you want to go to the right of that little pit stop sign. Don't hit the pit stop sign because that is a solid object and you will ruin your own race. So the pit stop does take a bit of a while to get through. It's not as long as that of Laguna Seca, but it's still a little bit on the longer side. And your pit loss time here is going to be just around the 8-second mark. So if you're going for the 3-stop, you want to try and make up as much time as possible so you can negate that 8 seconds that you lose from the extra pit stop. So we'll quickly go on over to the 2 stops. So this is where you do 12 laps on the racing soft tires, 14 laps on the racing medium tires, and 10 laps on the racing hard tires. And this is where one of the interesting observations came in during the testing on this pit stop strategy. So the lap time difference between the racing soft and the racing medium tires is around 0.4 to 0.9 of a second. The time difference between that of the racing soft tires and the racing hard tires is around 1.2 seconds to 1.6 seconds. So that's quite a bit of a difference. And if you're doing the racing hard stint for more than 1 lap, then you're quickly going to find out that you're basically a sitting duck. You're going to be going much slower through these turns, especially the sharper turns. And if you're in a car that understeers quite a bit, then you're going to struggle making your way through this stint. If you're in a car that can go through these turns easily, then distance can be a possible one to do. But the only thing is that this strategy is still 4 seconds slower than the 3-stop. And that is mainly just because you're lapping much slower in the racing hard tires and you're doing it for at least 10 laps. And the only way where this strategy can potentially come to fruition is if everyone ahead of you starts to battle it out and they still decide to go with the 3-stop strategy. But at the end of the day, I would still say just to try to go with the 3-stop strategy if possible. You get to spend more time on softer tires. Your car can actually do this thing called turn, especially if you're in an understeery car. Your overall pace will be faster provided that you don't end up battling too much. And that is pretty much it for the... Oh wait, I forgot to mention the 1-stop. The only reason why I'm not mentioning the 1-stop is because the 2-stop is slower than the 3-stop. If the 2-stop is slower, then that's already going to make the 1-stop look a lot less viable. And if you were to do the 1-stop, you'd be doing 14 laps on the racing medium tires and then the rest of the race on racing hard tires? That sounds like an easy way to finish last. But anyways, that is pretty much it from me, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. So this is Mr. MCA, falling asleep while testing a Sukuba, and I'll see you in the next video.